So my name is Nathan Sawaya, and I'm an artist who works with Lego bricks. Now, I used to be a lawyer, but I'll talk about that later. I found that, you know what, I should stop. I usually give this talk to a room full of 9-year-olds, so I'm just going to ask you to try and keep up, all right? What I wanted to talk about today was really my journey and what I've learned along the way. I started out with Lego bricks when I was 5 years old. My parents, that's them, actually, they always encouraged creativity. It was very important in our household. There was always tools to draw. There was always tools to sculpt, like Play-Doh. There was Lego bricks. In fact, they were so accommodating, they let me have a 36-square-foot Lego city in our living room. It was behind the couch, made for a good conversation piece, and for me, it was a respite. It's where I could go and create. And when I was about 10 years old, I said, you know what? I need a dog. And I asked my parents, can I get a dog? And they said, you're not getting a dog. So what did I do? I tore down that Lego city, and I built myself my very own life-size Lego dog. Now, it was a bit rectangular at the time, very boxy, so of course, I called it a boxer. And that's when I really realized, it was an aha moment, that you didn't have to build what was on the front of the box. You could take this toy and create whatever you could imagine. If I wanted to be a rock star that day, I could build myself a guitar. If I wanted to be an astronaut, I'll build myself a rocket ship. There were no limits to my creativity. It made me so happy that I found this toy, I could create whatever I could imagine. So, I grew up, I went to college, I had taken some art classes, and as I was graduating from college, I really didn't have faith. I'm going to pepper this talk with just works I've done from over the years. So as I was graduating from college, I didn't have faith in my art as a viable career. There's some societal pressures, some parental pressures maybe, and I decided, well, what does a young, budding artist do when they graduate from college? Of course, they go to law school. So I ended up practicing law, studied law in New York and then practicing corporate law in New York City. And I was practicing corporate law and I found myself not very happy. I would work full days at this law firm and I would come home and I would need that creative outlet, something that would make me happy. Some people go to the gym at the end of the day. Some people hit the bars. But for me, I needed to be creative. So I would come home and I would draw, I would write, and sometimes I would sculpt. And I sculpted out of more traditional media like clay and wire, even series of sculptures with candy. Then one day I thought, what about Lego bricks? What about this toy from my childhood? Could I create large-scale art out of this toy? So I challenged myself to do so, did some pieces, got encouragement from friends and family, put a website together, and soon I was getting requests from people who said, can you build my passion out of Lego? So someone would come to me and say, can you build a speedboat out of Lego? Sure, no problem. I live in Brooklyn. I love it there. Can you build the Brooklyn Bridge? Okay, yeah, no problem. I really like ambulances, and I really like rabbits. Done. Boom. So it was an interesting time because I was working these full days as a lawyer and full nights taking on commission artwork. So I decided, actually, it wasn't even me deciding. It was when my website crashed from too many hits, I realized, all right, it's time to make a change. And I had to stop and look at myself in the mirror and say, I'm no longer going to be a lawyer. And I made that trip up to the 42nd floor corner office of our law firm and said to my boss, I'm leaving the practice of law to go play with toys. And of course, my bosses were confused, and my colleagues were a little jealous. But fortunately, I had friends and family that encouraged me to do this. They were very supportive because it was a big transition, going from someone who had this very secure lifestyle, 6-figure salary, oh my gosh, to not knowing if I'd be able to, pay rent the next month. But because I like to eat, I took on commissions as much as I could. And so some of the more interesting commissions, I'll name the 3 most interesting commissions I ever had. These were requests that came in to me. Can you build me an urn for my dead chihuahua? Can you build me a working air conditioner? Can you build me a life-size nude woman with the head of a cat. Now, I actually built one of those three things. I like cats. I mean, what I found was, as I was taking on these commissions, I wanted to do more than just create what people were asking. I wanted to do something that had a little something behind it. So I took on some commissions. Well, I set up an art studio in New York City. This is what the art studio looks like today. And I started taking on commissions. This is an example of the Iwo Jima flag raising replica. And I did this for the National Marine Corps Museum in Quantico, Virginia. They wanted to reach out to kids and teach them a bit about history. So what better way than through a medium they're familiar with? So another example would be, this is a lion that replicates the famous lions that sit out in front of the New York Public Library. And as the library was turning 100 years old, they said, could you replicate our lions so we can teach kids about history, again, through this medium they'd be familiar with. So we debuted 2 of the lions on the 100th anniversary of the library. Some of the other requests that I get in are kind of fun. This was for a local company called TBS. They were launching a new show. Can you make a replica of Conan? And once I did that, then I got a call, can you make me a superhero? So this is Conan. This is his character, the Flaming Sea, which was designed by Bruce Timm. And so I replicated that out of Lego bricks to give you an idea of scale. That's how big that thing is. And of course, you do something for someone, and then someone else wants one. So it was an interesting time. But while I was taking on these commissions, I also wanted to create for myself. I wanted to express my emotions through my artwork. So I would start creating things on my own, and I would take on a project for someone as a commission so I could still pay that rent, but then I would start building for myself, and then a commission, and then pay the rent. And these are some examples of the pieces I've done for myself over the years. And this is where I could really express myself, put some emotion into the artwork, kind of tell a story about my adventures, my journey, all through my art. And when I started out going to galleries and saying, I create art out of Lego, they laughed at me. They said, okay, what is that, little cars and trucks? I was like, no, it's more than that. It's taking these human forms and putting some emotion into the sculpture and really trying to create and tell something. And it took a while. I mean, I had plenty of galleries slam their door in my face, but eventually they've opened those doors up. This is a great example of a piece that was a watershed moment. This piece was debuted at a gallery, and when it was debuted, a woman started crying because she saw this piece as a work of art. It was no longer just a toy. She was seeing the emotion that was there, and that was pretty important. That was a really big moment for me. It was quite the compliment. One of my more famous pieces is this piece called Yellow. Yellow has become a bit iconic for me. I see it a lot of places in pop culture. If you were to Google the word yellow, it comes up as one of the very first images. And I have seen it so many places. I've seen it on book covers. I've seen it on album covers. I've seen it on skateboards. A major fashion label used it on the back of their jackets. Now, some of this was done with my permission. You remember, I was a lawyer. It all worked out. So as I was creating this body of work, I realized I wanted to do exhibitions of it. And I was able to put together solo exhibitions of my art and started touring it. And so I was able to share this work with so many different people. And what was happening was museums were finding folks were coming to these art museums that had never been to an art museum before in their life. They were seeing this work, and they were drawn to it because it had this accessibility to it. It was a medium that was familiar. Folks can go to a museum, and they see a marble statue, and they can appreciate it. But very few people have a slab of marble at their home. So when they go home at the end of the day, they're not going to be chipping away at marble. But folks had this toy at home. They would go home, and they would create. And I would get emails from people who say, we saw your exhibition. The kids came home. They went under their bed, dug out all their Lego bricks. We haven't heard from them in 3 days. Thank you. And I'm happy to say we're up to 5 exhibitions that are currently on tour. We're in all different continents. We're in Europe right now, US, Asia. We've been to Australia, South Africa. We're all over the world, and we're bringing art to people. And it's been an incredible journey. Thanks. And the great thing is, we're reaching out to kids, and we're getting them into the art world through something they're familiar with, and we're educating them. This is one of my favorite pieces. That's me actually sitting in the shadow there to give you an idea of scale. That took a few months to build. So one of my latest projects that I've taken on is to take some of the more famous works from art history and replicate them. And the idea behind this is I can get to kids and teach them about art history through this medium. And it's worked very well, because how do you talk to a 10-year-old about art history? It's kind of tough. But here's a way we can show them the works, show them every famous piece. Well, I've chosen 50 of the most famous pieces, and again, out of a medium that they love. And it's been a fun adventure. What I've tried to do is replicate all the pieces life-size. So here's Rodin's Thinker. Here's Rodin's Thinker in Lego. The Venus de Milo in brick. Nefertiti in brick. And it's really been amazing how people have really connected with this art, who have never seen this art in person, but now they get to see it out of Lego. What I did with some of these two-dimensional paintings, I'm still working with the medium I really love to use, so I've added a three-dimensional element. It's taken something from the painting and actually sculpted it in 3D. So you have Whistler's mother there she is in brick, and there she is in 3D. It gives a little more aspect to the work. Thank you. And one of the newest things I've done at the exhibition is I want to really encourage people to create on their own. And so to inspire folks, we've started a project where at the end of the exhibition, I ask everyone to add a brick to this sculpture. And this has grown and grown and grown. There's tens of thousands of bricks there. And it keeps growing and growing. And so many people have written me and said, this was so amazing. I love to be able to add my own brick. I felt like I was part of this process. I was inspired. And that's my mission. My mission is to inspire those folks. And as you can see, they each sign their brick. And this brings so much joy to the people. And here's where I get a little serious. Creating art made me so happy. But creating art makes everyone happy. Just a little bit of art makes you a happier person. And there's data out there where, yes, making art treats depression, it helps lessen depression, it helps prevent depression. So making art makes you happier. But making art also makes you smarter. And why I say that is when kids have art in their schools, they do better. When kids have art in their curriculum, their test grades go up. When kids have art in their curriculum, the graduation rates are higher. And so it's very scary for me how art gets cut from curriculums in this country. I want there to be more art. I want people creating more. Art makes you happy, and art makes you smarter. So therefore, art makes you a better person. Art is not optional. Art is necessary. If I give you a challenge today, it's that I challenge you to do a little bit of art. Not 3 months on a Tyrannosaurus Rex sculpture. Maybe just a little bit of doodling, a little finger painting with the kids. Maybe even snap a few Lego bricks together. It will make you a better person. I'm going to leave you with a project I did over the past year or so. I'm based in New York City. I see a bit of graffiti, and I wanted to do my own form of street art. So I came up with this concept, Hug Man. Now what does Hug Man do? He hugs things. I build multiple versions of this guy, and I leave him around the city. He hugs, signposts. He hugs bicycle racks. It's really just to put a smile on people's faces. They stop, they take pictures. It's New York City, so they last a good hour before they disappear. So I will leave you with this. Art is necessary, and it's important to follow your dreams, because the worst day as an artist is still better than the best day as a lawyer. Thank you.